Lately, what I'm hearing from real estate agents isn't that they don't know what to post. It's that they don't see how their posts are actually turning into money. And because of that, they're overthinking everything. They're second guessing everything that they're saying, which I totally relate to. I've been doing that with this podcast. And honestly, they are really starting to hate their job, and they're hating social media marketing. They've lost all joy in being able to share what it is that they're doing online. And the biggest problem is that the pressure to turn every single post into a lead is doing the exact opposite of what they want it to do. It's making people smell the commission breath. And if you've been in the business long enough, you've heard people talk about commission breath. Somebody's going to know when you're sitting down and you are in it for the money and not in it to guide somebody to where they want to be, and they're not going to use you. So if all you ever post online is just listed and just sold and look at me and here's my award, you're not bringing people into this zone of familiarity with you. You're pushing them away because when they look at you, all they see is they have their best interest at heart, not mine. Social media marketing has evolved a lot over the last 10, 15 years, and it takes a lot of fuel to get this social media engine off of the ground. We just had this, epic space launch to the moon and back thing happen. It's currently still happening at the time of recording. It might have already finished by the time you're listening to this. But one of my favorite analogies is that it takes the majority of the fuel for a rocket to get off the ground, and then it doesn't need any fuel, hardly, to orbit, to go all the places that it needs to go. All of that fuel was used at the very beginning. And for people who have spent the last 10 years building their social media platforms, they've used the fuel. They've created the consistency. They've made it into space. Now they're orbiting the Earth, and they've exhausted what they can do there. Now people are getting bored. I've already seen this. This has already been something that I've done before. I've run out of experiments to do right here. I don't feel like it's worth it anymore. We are far past that in social media marketing. We've made it to space, and now we are trying to land on the moon again. So if you've been doing your social media marketing for a while and you feel like things are stale, the good news is that you don't really need all that much more fuel to get to where you want to go next. If you are still on the landing pad and you have yet to take off, it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of burn to get you up to where you need to be. It's going to be more than just consistency. It is going to have to be a drive to get there. And that is an episode for another day. We're talking about the people who are consistent right now, who have seen growth, but now want to see the dollars. Whenever you're in space, if you have watched this again, we were orbiting the Earth, and then what we needed to do was put a little bit more fuel into it so that we could turn our trajectory to the moon. And it took 16 seconds. 16 seconds of gas is what got our spacecraft from Earth all the way to the moon so that it could circle the moon. That is what you are doing right now. You're pointing your target somewhere else, and you're putting just enough fuel, just enough energy into it so that you don't lose the joy and you can start heading in the direction that you need to go. It is smooth sailing from there. Most people are posting what it is that they're doing every day. You've got this documentary style stuff that you're sharing, but it does not feel like it has a point. You're filtering every post through this lens of, is it giving me ROI? It puts a lot of pressure on you. It shows through the camera as you're talking to the camera. I need this to be meaningful to somebody. I need this to turn into something. This needs to get to you, and I need you to hear what I'm saying. And nobody accepts information like that very well. I mean, I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and when I sit them down and I give them a life lesson, they just don't listen. But when I show them the life lesson, when we walk through the steps, when we're talking through the process together, and I'm not just beating them across the head with information, they typically listen, and they will lean into that advice or learn from their experience. As far as ROI goes, I find it so interesting because it's like people want to see directly, like, oh, I saw this post on social media, and that's the post that made me say that I want to use you. And that's not how familiarity works. Familiarity is the funnel, and it's been the funnel since the very beginning, before social media even, took off. What people were doing it was word of mouth. We were saying, hey, I used Rachel to buy a house. And whenever I used Rachel, I had a really great experience. And so then you have this prospective buyer who has the experience from person A, and they go talk to person B, and person B says, you know what? I have heard of these real estate agents, but Rachel sold my house, and this is the experience that I had. And the more people that they talk to, the more familiar they become with me. And then ultimately they decide, I think I'm going to call Rachel so that I can list my house. There may not be one person that they talk to that made them decide to call me. However, the combination of people talking about Rachel, helping them sell their house, it was going to be possible if they used Rachel. Same thing online. You just don't have the same kind of word of mouth. You are your own word of mouth. You are showing and creating the story online to tell somebody, this is what it's going to be like if you work with me. If you're only ever posting what's happening at the closing table, then they only ever see the end result. And what they really want to know is how you got there. What am I supposed to do? What do I need to be prepared for? I had a phone conversation with somebody the other day who's looking to buy a house. And what's funny is that they already know what house they want to buy. We're selling several inside of a neighborhood, and this one just hasn't hit the market yet. And they knew that it was coming. It's their very first home, and they said, I'm so overwhelmed and I feel so lost. And I'm thinking, the hard part, you've taken care of the hard part. You know what house you want to buy. You know, you've made this selection. Now we need to go through the next steps. And they'd already talked to a lender. So I was like 2 steps down. The hard part is truly over. Like, we have expended the gas. Now you just need to get to the closing table. But they were so overwhelmed because they didn't know what was going to happen. They knew that they were going to close on the house, but they didn't know how stressful it was going to be along the way. And so those are the kinds of things that you can share online. Those are the stories that you need to tell. And it might not be directly with a person. Like, I'm not going to call Amy out and say, Amy called me the other day and asked me for advice on these 3 things. It's all hypothetical. One of my favorite things to do is to go on home tours, and when I leave, give a recap of what happened inside of the house. How did they feel about the house? It wasn't just, hey, look at these beautiful cabinets and this land is fantastic. What could you do with this? It was, when my client walked through the front door, the first feeling that they had was this. What we didn't see on the pictures that we saw in real life was this. The pictures did not do this thing justice. The reason why my client decided not to pursue an offer on this house is because of XYZ. And what does that do? It creates an opportunity for a buyer to walk through the story with you on what it feels like to actually look for a house, on the things that they need to be thinking about. And it helps a seller say, these are the things that buyers are thinking of. I'm going to go ahead and take care of the cat pee smell so that it doesn't smell like that when I go to sell my house. Feels like Captain Obvious. They just don't always think about it. But you're giving advice. You're sharing the story. You're telling them what to do, and you're taking away the unknown. The more that you post, the more familiar they become with you. They're going to convert because you've been present long enough to feel known. It's not just because of one post. And when people post and then run away and never post again, or if they post 1,000 times and it's the same thing that's not working over and over again, that's where things start feeling like you're just failing. Spend a little more burn, look at it, look at the data, determine what it is that's working, what it is that isn't working, and just point your nose in a different direction. You're going to be able to make it there. It's just looking at the data, having somebody maybe from the outside telling you, this is what I'm seeing you do, and this is something that I think might be interesting, and taking a step outside of the conversation and figuring out how to share it in such a way that somebody can feel themselves inside of that story. The other thing is that if you don't say anything, you're not going to convert. So I love trends. I love seeing people do like the dances and whatever. Taylor Swift comes up with a new song, and all of a sudden, you have this new TikTok dance that you have to do. And I think that you should do those things. If that's your style, if that's how you communicate with people, if you find joy in that, then do it. If that's all you ever do people really know what it is that you're doing? Do they see you online just having fun, or do they see you as somebody who can have fun online, who knows what it is that they're doing, who has the empathy, who has the knowledge, who has the competence that you can get them to whatever finish line that they want to be at so that they can actually say yes? Do they know how to say yes? When I do my Taylor Swift dance, at the very end of the dance, I don't look at somebody and say, if you enjoyed this dance, like and follow for more. And if you're looking at buying real estate, give me a call. Here's my number. you're going to have to put that somewhere. You're going to have to explicitly say, this is the opportunity that you have, and here's how I want to be able to help serve you. Finding a balance between those things can be really challenging. And a lot of people like to blame the algorithm for, only feeding certain things. I lean into this so that they can actually see me. Okay, you lean into that, they see you, they go back to your feed, and then all they ever see are trending audios. You lean into that, you get them hooked, you bring them to your page, and then they start seeing this beautifully layered, curated idea of who you are, who you serve, how they fit into that picture. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is by actually using your words, saying the thing out loud, and telling them what it is that they need to do in order to be able to work with you. This week, I have 3 actionable items here that I think could help. Post 3 videos where you're talking like you would to a client. So you're sitting down and you're having a conversation with somebody. The favorite one that I've done recently has been about selling agents, listing agents, overpricing homes. It was a great conversation I had with a seller. Another person had, overpriced the house by like $400,000. It was absurd. But it was so easy to be able to sit and look at the camera and say, you're never going to believe the experience that I had the other day. I was talking to a seller and they had been told that their house was worth this much money. And what that does to their expectations is XYZ. I understand why you would want to list your house that high, but here's the reality. And you're showing that empathy. I think most of us are really good in person communicating empathy and communicating knowledge. It's pretending like the camera lens is somebody that wants to hear what you're having to say. That becomes the biggest challenge. The next one would be to share one real opinion, even if it's a little scary. So there's a lot going on in the world right now, and you have to be a little careful about what you're sharing because you don't want to say too much, I guess. You don't want to polarize your page. Pull up an article, pull up realtor.com, pull up the NAR statistics, whatever it is, and see what it is that people are reading. What is the headline that is being said right now, and what is your thought and your opinion on that headline? There was one that I had done last week on, I did a lot of things last week. There's one that I did recently on mobile homes where, the price of mobile homes or the price appreciation of mobile homes is, steadily increasing over a site-built home, which sounds really exciting. But at the root of it, it wasn't the mobile home that was increasing in value. It was the land that the mobile home was on. So don't just buy a mobile home thinking, oh, well, in 2026, they appreciate in value. Understand the nuance in that headline. So I got on there and I explained the nuance in the headline, and I got really great feedback. So share a real opinion and just share it off the cuff. Don't feel like it has to be polished. It doesn't need to be polished. And then post something with zero expectations of a lead, just connection. The goal in the post is for you to start a conversation with somebody around the topic that you are sharing. Again, going back to, I'm going to go house hunting and I'm looking at this house, and the first thing that they noticed is that all of the light bulbs were different colors. Nobody notices that. That's only something I notice. But you can start a conversation like that. Somebody will say, oh my gosh, I hate it whenever I see that. Or I've never thought about that. I just looked up and my living room has 4 different colors in it. And that is the connection that you're looking for. Those are the things that are going to lead to the conversations, that are going to lead to the conversion that you're looking for whenever you are trying to grow your business. Your lead gen time should include social media time, and not just, I'm going to sit on Canva and create for 3 hours. But if you're lead genning for 3 to 4 hours a day, during that time, spend 15 minutes, talk to the camera like it's a client, and then post it online. I promise you're going to see better results than any just listed or just sold.